Who is a yogi? The one who performs actions skillfully and efficiently. Why? Your interest is to serve others. So many are going to be benefited by your action, you should do a better job. If an ordinary person doesn't do a good job, then only he loses. But if you don't do a good job, imagine how many people will lose.
Namaste everyone, good evening. Great to have you all here. Let us continue our study on the Bhagavad Gita. Studying it has changed my life and made me understand so many things, because the Gita is written for people like us, karma yogis. I call us karma yogis because we all have work to do in the world. We're not monks isolated in some island or some ashram. Our path in life is to live on this earth with people. So we have to face all the daily problems. And how do we face it and maintain our spirituality? How do we do this and still connect with the divine? How to keep that connection constantly. And this is the Gita. And last week we finished chapter 3, Sloka 22, page 44, on the Living Gita, translated by Sri Swami Satchidananda. So last week I finished off with Lord Krishna, who represents a higher self, saying, whatever great person does is followed by others who set their standard by his or her example. So again and again, if you see the world the way it is and you're not happy with the world, know it is the people on top setting the example. And this works with families too. If parents don't set the right example, the kids go wrong. And this is why Lord Jesus said, the children will suffer the father's sins, because it's by example. So for me, a really great person is one who's simply respectful, kind, full of honor, integrity, truthful. The Gita will cover all these aspects as we move along. Then he goes, and this is Lord Krishna, the avatar, talking to Arjuna, and he's saying, Arjuna, there's nothing in the three worlds, earth, astral, and celestial planes, that I ought to do, nor anything for me to achieve that I have not already achieved, yet I continue doing things. 23. If I ever stop doing my continuous work, Arjuna, everyone would follow my example in every way. If I stopped doing, the worlds would perish. I would confuse all species and cause the destruction of all creatures. So what is he telling us here? He said, I am a divine incarnation. You can call Jesus or Buddha divine incarnations, right? I'm a divine incarnation. I come to this world to show human beings as an example how to do work in life. I don't need to do any of it. Neither do any of us. Nobody needs to do any of it because we come from the consciousness. But we asked to be in this play or in this cosmic energy field. And so he says, I'm here. And can you imagine? I am your spiritual example. I am the one that's guiding you. Can you imagine? If I didn't do things, then everybody would follow me. So therefore, me, even as a king, and in this story, he is a king, I still have to work. If I didn't work, everybody would follow the same example, and everything would perish, right? People didn't work, everybody would perish, right? So now he talks about the kind of work in the next, in 25. and how to do the work. The unenlightened do things with attachment, wanting some results for themselves. An enlightened person does things with the same zeal, Arjuna, but without attachment, and thus guides others on the path of selfless action, karma yoga.
Just as an ordinary person performs actions with selfishness, the enlightened one also does things, but without selfishness. The only difference? The ordinary person does things for his or her own benefit. The enlightened one does things for others' benefit. The performance of actions for others is in no way inferior. In fact, Lord Krishna says, the selfless person should even act a little more carefully and more efficiently than a selfish person. A yogi is acting for everybody's sake and should do a little better job. Sometimes the attitude is, since I'm not gaining much from this action, it's mainly for others, it doesn't matter how I do it. I'll just let it happen. Probably Lord Krishna knows this attitude is part of human nature. So he says, don't think that because you're acting selflessly, you can get away with something haphazard. In fact, you should do a better job.
Two people might be doing the same kind of job. The unenlightened person will do the job maybe really well, but will get very disturbed if they don't get the result they want from what they're doing. And if you look at your lives, before I realized this, when I used to work and I didn't get my result, I get bad-tempered, angry, frustrated, blame the entire world for, I didn't do it, I worked so hard, and why didn't I get this? I don't deserve this kind of feeling, right? But here, it's saying that that's how you feel when you're unenlightened, because you expect, and you become attached to that expectation, and then you become miserable. But the enlightened person will work for the joy of it. I am working because I love to work. I love to work. It's my joy to do this. And if I don't enjoy doing it, I just won't do it, right? But that person will live in that spirit of no expectation. No expectation at all. I just do my job. This is what I love to do with my life. And I'm doing it because I want to. Because what else is there to do? I do meet people. I was telling Anna this afternoon, I meet people who really are extremely wealthy and able to, do whatever they want in their lives without getting a job. But they come to me totally disturbed and upset and depressed. And I say, oh, I know why you're depressed. And they go, why? I can't figure out why I'm depressed. I have everything. And why am I not grateful for everything? I said, you don't feel useful. It's like if you party every night, after a while it gets boring, right? Is there something else? And it's so interesting. Many of my clients that I've met, when they retire and they haven't got in touch with their spirit or who they really are, and they retire and maybe they're playing golf every day, or they're going out for meals all the time and socializing. Nearly all of them, after 6 to 8 months, feel fidgety, anxious, stressed out. While they were working huge jobs, doing really in charge of huge companies, seem to be able to cope with the stress. But retirement stress, why do you think? It's empty. Our lives we need meaning. In whatever, even if you are staying at home, if you're doing something with meaning, if you love washing dishes and you're doing it for the sake of the divine, or you just love to see things pretty, there's still a love in it. There's a meaning in it. There's some connection with it. But when you just do and enjoy, and you can't share your enjoyment with people, community, life, it becomes a little empty, because that's the way we are made, whether we like it or not. We're all part of the same consciousness, and at the root of our knowledge all of us basically we come from celestial planes. We all come from these different planes and we come to this earth. Deep in our DNA, we know this. And that's why we feel lost when we don't feel useful. Okay? So the idea about work, and I love his explanation of work, is when you work without the attachment, you really become more peaceful. You become more peaceful. Watch that in your life. Watch when you do a job for the sake of doing. If you cook a meal for someone, and this used to happen to me. For example, I used to cook a meal for my husband in those days. I was very young. And if he didn't compliment the meal or didn't say thank you, I'd get very disturbed and say, you don't appreciate me, I work all day, etc., etc. And now when I cook a meal, I'm just like, I'm so happy to cook it. I hope it's so delicious. Whoever eats this, I've made it really quickly, but I've done it with so much love and so many mantras. And it's a different feeling because who benefits, right? I benefit. I'm feeling great. And the reason why I talk about food is because these are the simple things in life that are so important. It's not, sometimes we think it's the big things you do, but really, as Mother Teresa said, it's the small things you do with great love that make a difference in your life. So this is the practice. Practice with little things you do at home all the time and see if you need that thank you or you need that approval. And if you don't get approval, of course it's a little sad. We're human, right? So, what I do is I say, dear God, I did it for you, or my divine love, wherever you are, whatever you are, I did it for you. I hope I did a good job. Done. And I feel happy. And then, inevitably, that day, somebody would send me a message, nothing to do with what I was doing, and say they really appreciate what I've done. And I go, see, I didn't get it from there, but I got it from somewhere else, without expecting it. And this happens again and again and again when you don't expect, right? So it just makes you peaceful. And this one, I love to quote. In yoga, we're not here. We really are not here to convince anyone of anything. All we are, as Lord Krishna said, we just want to be that good example to make a better world, a more peaceful world, a better world for our grandchildren, our children, and even those that are not ours, for strangers, That's all we want to do because we know we're part of one family. So our job as yogis is precisely this. We're not here, like I said, to change anyone, but to show them, be an example of how they can find their peace. Okay? And it says on 26, a wise person will not disturb the mind of an unwise person who is still attached to the fruits of his or her actions. But by continuously performing perfect selfless actions, the wise person influences others in all they do. Again, when I first started on this path, and I'm grateful to my late husband because he was a tough teacher, I constantly, every time I learned something in my mind, the ego, call it, just because I had a bit more spiritual knowledge, thought I was better than him. So I would start to lecture, all day long. And I'd say, and you should do this, and you should do this. And he said, oh my God, you've really got a big ego, haven't you? And then I would answer, no, but I'm only helping you because I want the best for you, da 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 da. And he goes, all you sound like is an old school teacher trying to brainwash me to do something I don't want to do. And when he said that to me, I looked at myself because I was meditating and I was actually practicing. You see, yoga has to be practiced in your head, in your soul, not anywhere else, And I was practicing meditation every day. I sat down the next morning. That night I was really upset as one would be, because the ego is so big at that time. And he was absolutely right. And I saw he was absolutely right, that I had developed this superiority complex just because it was a bit more spiritual. And I had started judging his food, judging his manner, judging everything. Whereas before yoga, I wasn't judging him so much. So that was such a great lesson for me. When you live so many years, isn't it true, Mary? And you see the flow of life, and when you accept that the plan is perfect and you just do the best to hurt as few people as possible, and you just live the kindest you can be, you never know what's around the corner, because opportunities come when you don't expect them. So when you hear yourself lecturing about yoga, please just hold back, be the example instead, and try not to look down on people as if they're inferior. And my master used to tell me as well, don't force your help on anyone. If they need help, they will come to you. And this is the way I still work today. Unless I see somebody's really suffering, and then I would call them and say, hey, you're really suffering. If you need me, I'm here, and that's it. And so this is really important. I've marked it in my books. I'd like you to, because this is a problem with religious people, spiritual people. We get on our high horse and we think we know it all. So please be careful of that. Instead, behave and become the example of it. And I'm going to read the next few slokas, one after the other. 27. The quality of nature, calmness, restlessness, inertia, do all that is done. But because the mind is clouded by ego, the ego I spoke about just now, a person thinks, I am the doer. Arjuna, one may intuit the relationship between nature's qualities, gunas, and action, karma. Whoever does so knows that nature, as the senses, merely abides with nature as the sense objects. He identifies with neither, and thus does not become entangled. Those still deluded by nature's qualities become attached to nature's functions. But one of the perfect understanding should not disturb the mind of someone who does not know better. Okay, again he reiterates this. One should not disturb the mind of someone who does not know better. And what is he talking about here, nature? He says when we come on earth, we are all governed by nature. For those who don't know the gunas, please, I have a talk on YouTube, especially on the gunas, the qualities of nature. So like the atom, proton, electron, and neutron, nature has three qualities, and those three qualities are imbibed in each and every person and all around us. So here he's just saying nature does its work. Nature brings to you what it needs to do, right? Because that's nature. And when we come to earth, we have to face what nature is, external and internal. But when we start getting involved with nature and entangled, what does that mean? Like we want to control nature, control people, control our moods, control other people's moods, because people have moods. When we want to control, that's entanglement. We want to put ourselves in other people's business, in other words, or even nature's business. Like how many times we will try, why is the weather like this today? Then we get frustrated, we get angered by the weather when it should be this for me, So our ego gets involved and we think life is doing something to us, but it's just nature doing its thing. It's the moods doing its thing in ourselves. If we can just sit and watch, even in oneself, right? Like I said last time, all of us have moods. There's some days that you'll be really, really full of energy. Other days you'll be really tired. Other days you just can't be bothered. Accept that. Don't get entangled. Oh, I'm not good enough. Nalanie, I slept all day Sunday. How did you do the rest of the week? I never stopped working. Great, thank God you rested on Sunday. Even in the Bible said God rested on the seventh day after working so hard. Why do you feel guilty? You see, this entanglement, we judge ourselves so much. We're constantly looking at these things that happen in our life, but it's nature. Don't get entangled. Step back. Just say, my favorite line is, it is as it is. This is how it is now. Accept the things I cannot change. Have the courage to change the things I can, and know when to do what. Sometimes you can't change anything. You can only change your attitude. And why am I disturbed? Because it's my connection with the outcome. I wanted to come out like this. It's not happening. Nature's not making it happen. Accept. Okay, so this is what he's talking about, entanglement with nature. Just accept. And I loved what, I don't know if any of you met Dada Swami, amazing soul. Very good friends with Swami Satchidananda and my dad. I heard him talk many times. Small, tiny man, loud voice. He walks in the room and he used to shine, just shine. It's beautiful. And he always used to repeat, God's plan is perfect. Don't worry, be happy. God's plan is perfect. Don't worry, be happy. And our master used to say, it's all its form, it's all its name, it's all its deed, and it's all for good. In other words, it's all consciousness, it's all divine, it's all going to happen, it's all for good. Be patient, watch. So, and then he goes on 30 and he says, dedicate all your actions to me. Then your mind will rest. Wow, isn't that nice to have your mind rest? In the self, the higher self, Atman, God, Jesus, whatever you want to call it, but it calls it the higher self. Free of the wishing and selfishness fever. Oh, I love these words. Free of the wishing and selfishness fever. Oh, why can't I have this? And why can't this? And why can't this happen for me? Because I used to feel like that. And to be free of that, I tell you, is the most incredible feeling in the world. Once you are free of that, you're happy. You're peaceful. No matter what happens, you're peaceful. So, and then you can engage in battle. Now, here we're talking about the battle of our mind, right? So we have, the angel and the demon, they're constantly battling, right? And it's hard to know how to battle because the ego gets involved. And then we get so involved in this, I have to have it my way. But he says, once you just dedicate your actions to the highest. Okay, I do my best. I'll do my best. That's all I can do in the most honorable way. And then you're not, I have to have this happen. If this doesn't happen, I'm not going to be happy. No. Whatever the outcome, I know it'll be for the best. Many times when people ask me, when people are sick, and maybe they're very sick and they say, pray, Nalanie, pray for them. I say, I will pray for whatever is best to happen for them. Not for you, not for me, but for them. And my test was when my husband was actually dying. And of course, the one thing you want to pray for is that miracle, stage 4 cancer, and you watch him deteriorating every single day in front of you. And the pain is horrendous, and there's such a temptation, make him live, make him live, make him live. But when you know that the suffering is too intense for that person, and I had to use every inch of my power and strength to pray, dear God, whatever is best for him. But if by some miracle it can reverse and he can live a good life, then let him live. If he lives a broken life, let him go. He will not be able to cope with it. His nature was such. And that was the prayer. And it was the best prayer, because he even said in the end, thank you for letting me go. Thank you, because if I hadn't, he would have stayed. Do you see? And that's the hardest thing of non-attachment that I've ever had to face in my life. But it taught me such a great lesson, because it's not about us in the end, right? It was about his death. It wasn't about me and my sorrow. And this is how you do it. It's about somebody else. And doing that also frees you from the guilt of watching continuous suffering. Because I have seen people who have prayed for a grandfather who's really old and wanting to go, no, you can't go, granddad, because I need you. And the poor grandfather said to me, Nalanie, why won't they let me go? I really don't want to be here anymore. My body is broken. Do you see? And it's a selfishness. So when I talk to the person, and I've done this quite a few times, they get very angry with me. They say, can't you see? What's the point? We're not here to do that. We're all going to die one day anyway. So what's the point of being so selfish? For what? Let people have their journeys, each one. Allow them to go on their journey. Don't hold anybody back. And it's same with marriage, right? Once somebody, and I've told this story many times, but I think this is a really nice one from Gurudev. Once somebody went up to him and said, Gurudev, my husband doesn't love me anymore. And he wants to leave me. What do I do? And he goes, good. And she looked at him and she said, what? How can that be good? Why would you want to be with someone who doesn't love you? You deserve better. And she suddenly went, yes, it's true. It was the ego. How can you leave me? Well, if somebody doesn't want you, goodbye. I deserve better. Of course, you're going to face the pain. There's no that's for sure. But pain is much better than feeling so needy and so horrible. When you feel needy, how do you feel? You feel horrible. You don't like yourself. Then you lose your self-esteem. You lose who you are. You become this wimp who, I need you. Yucks. Why would you want to do that? You don't deserve to do that. So don't become the wimp. All right? And I love that story. So, and then he continues. And you can engage in battle. When your mind is calm, then you can see very clearly whether you should go for this action, which is not a comfortable action, or you should go for the action where you walk away. But you will know exactly what to do, because it's not about you, it's about what is best for everyone, including you. All right? So you are included in that everyone. 31. Whoever lives by these teachings with faith and without complaining will transcend karma. So you live, stop complaining. That's one of the first things my master said to me when I said, what do I do with my life, Gurudev, after seeing you for this week and living with you for this week and seeing that's the way I want to be, what do I do with my life? The first thing, stop complaining, love where you are. And I find myself saying it to people all the time, the grass is not greener anywhere else. It's greenest where you're standing right now. See the green grass. Walk on it. Don't wait for tomorrow. It may be too late. So we'll transcend karma. Those who don't live by these teachings, however, but look instead to criticize them, misunderstand everything. They have no discrimination and are ruined. People who don't live by these teachings, and many people say, oh Nalanie, I don't agree with that. Bad people live so well. Really? Most of the bad people I know come to a very bad ending. If you look at mafia, you look at criminals, you look at people who, try to dominate the world, they're never at peace, and they have a lot of karma to face. I've met people who've been, selling drugs and then find out that their own kids are dying from cancer. There is a payment. somewhere. Maybe we don't see it, but there always is. So be careful what you put in the world. They have no discrimination. They think this is all there is, and they are ruined, spiritually ruined. 33. Even a wise person follows his or her own nature, as all beings follow their own natures. Why try to force anything to be otherwise? So here he's saying, modern psychology, accept who you are and what you are. People are always trying to be something else. Why would you want to be something else or someone else? 34. It is natural for the senses to be attracted or repulsed by various sense objects. It is natural, okay? For you to be repulsed by certain things, sense objects of things outside of you, or to be attracted. But don't for a moment come under their dominion, or surely they will be your enemies. Okay? The enemy is within you. So it's natural for you to be attracted to something and sometimes adverse to something. But don't allow them to control your mind and your life. Because you allowing them to control your mind and life, that's it. You will suffer. You'll have battles the rest of your life. And this is really important. I've really underlined this one in my book. It is better to do your own Dharma, your own calling, even if it's imperfect, than someone else's Dharma perfectly. Even better to die in your Dharma than in another's, which brings great fear. Now this is full of wisdom, this sloka. I have met so many people who try to be like somebody else. And in the beginning, when I came on this path, I wanted to be Gurudev. And that was dangerous, because you can't be somebody else. What I learned after a few years, I wanted to be like him in his way of living. But I could never be him. He was a man. He was a, wow, great soul. How crazy. I was watching all his videos every day, non-stop, old video cassettes. And I even started to speak like him. And again, thank God for my children and my husband. Are you speaking like Gurudev now? Honestly, it was so funny. And I go, uh-oh, I'm falling into, I'm not him. I'm different. I mean, he didn't go to dance school or art school. He went to, he learned to be a technician, worked in a temple. I didn't do any of those things, I loved fashion, I'm a woman. And I, oh my God, what on earth is happening to me? I've got into this crazy idea of being something I'm not, and that's not mine. And I was reading the Gita at that time, and I read this, and I thought, oh my God, even if I'm not perfect as I am, I will do my job as best as I can as Nalanie. I don't have to pretend to be anybody else. Because guess what? When you try, and that's what I saw so clearly, when you try to pretend to be somebody like that person, what happens? You're always living in fear. Because you don't want to show people that you have failed, do you? So you're always like on your best behavior. You never really relax. And then if you do something wrong, I don't want to admit I did it wrong. Thank God this phase was short, but it was a horrible phase in my life because I lived in fear of doing, it was fear, it wasn't joy, you see? That's because I was not being who I was. And then when I thought, no, I like wearing makeup, what's wrong with that? And somebody said, why do you wear jewelry? Oh, I love earrings. What's wrong with that? I'm not hurting anyone. This is who Nalanie is. I live in a home and I like these things. What's wrong with all these things? Because I was hearing, oh, if you want to teach spirituality, you have to give up everything. But my master never told me that. It was his disciples that told me that. So I was getting secondhand information. My master never once told me not to do any of these things, But all this, you have to give up this, you have to give up that, you have to give up. And this is what's wrong sometimes when you see yoga schools. The master teaches one thing, but the disciples, oh my God, please forgive me for this, do become quite rigid. And I mean, look at Lord Jesus' teachings, right? They couldn't be more loving. They couldn't be more beautiful. He was never a bigot. He never said that, those who he talked to the prostitutes. In fact, that's why they crucified him. He talked to the prisoners. He talked to the tax collectors. He talked to what they call the Gentiles, because he was Jewish. And he was crucified for all those things. He healed on a Sabbath because he was doing good. And now people use his name and say, this is the only way or you're doomed to hell. What an insult to a great sage. What an insult to Lord Jesus. He of all didn't judge anyone. And when the people wanted to throw stones at the prostitute, what did he say to them? Let you without sin cast the first stone. And of course everybody had sinned. So what right did they have? Do you see what I'm saying? But we get so caught up with what society tells us we should do that we forget what our own Dharma is. And of course, and what I realized as I grew in the spiritual path, that the wonderful thing about this divine consciousness is that God made God in everyone so different, so God could experience God as us in our individual personalities. This is why the divine spark is in everyone, and that is in every scripture. The kingdom of heaven is within. Look within, because you are divine. And that's what I started to realize. And if you want to make beautiful music, the orchestra has to have violins and drums and saxophones and trombones and everything to make the music, the beautiful music in an orchestra. So we need each other to be so different in order to make beautiful music on earth. Otherwise, if we were all identical, can you imagine what a boring world it would be? So do your own Dharma. If you do somebody else's, will bring great fear because you're listening to what they think is right for you. What do you think? Whatever you think is right for you. Follow it. Know yourself well. 36. Then Arjuna asked the Lord, what force is it that drags us into this sin? This sin is for me obstacle. Okay, I love to use the word obstacle. What is it that makes us like this, even against our will, as if by some compulsion we seem to do things that we don't want to do? Why? What is it that makes us do this? 37. The blessed Lord said, know that the enemy here on earth is personal desire and anger, which arise from the all-consuming Rajasic guna, restless quality of nature. Rajasic guna is the restlessness in you. And know here, the enemy is personal desire and anger. So people get very confused with this one. I need to explain it. Because people go to me, Nalanie, what are you telling me? Then I can't have a personal desire? No. You must have some kind of desire in order to live on this earth. Otherwise, if you have no purpose, like, people who have no purpose are lost, right? So you need a goal. And yes, having that passion and desire gets you to that goal. That's not wrong. But look what the desire is based on. If the desire is based on personal desire in the sense of, I want this to prove myself. I want to be the best person in this room. I want to be the one that everybody notices on Instagram and YouTube and get all these hits, which is what's going on now, or Facebook. Then that is your enemy. Because when you don't get that, you're going to be distraught. As so many young people that I see today come to me with anxiety because they didn't get, this is really a big problem today. Social media is a huge problem today. And not only young people anymore, adults too. When they start a new company or they start a new project, and they don't get enough people looking at their stuff, they get really dejected. I said, well, years ago, nobody ever looked at anything. We did anyway. Why you suddenly lost your balance and your grounding? Are these people really going to make a difference to your life? People that you don't know? Why are you basing yourself on something so unreal? So unreal. You know who you are. You've done a great job. Great. You see, so that's the difference. Have the goal, do the work, and no expectation. And then you will get there. You will get there. And so this is what makes an anger. Because when you don't get what you really want, you get angry. You get angry at life. You get disillusioned. You get, you go, oh my God, I don't really want to live. Life is going wrong for me, and all the rest of the stuff. 38-39. Like fire covered by smoke, like a mirror covered by dust, like an unborn fetus completely surrounded by a membrane, just so is the wisdom in humankind covered over by the insatiable fire of desire, the constant enemy of the wise. So you've all known this. If you have the desire that's so strong and you can't get what you want, you really get angry, and it's almost like you can't even admit you're wrong. You have to be right. Everything has to be your way, and you lose your grounding totally. Okay? And I've seen this 100 times in people, and in the old days myself. 40. The senses, mind, and intellect are the seat of desires. It is this desire that veils wisdom and deludes people. The senses. What are your senses? Your 5 senses, right? These are the things that house the desires, because when you see something or you hear something, taste something, I want, right? No. And the mind is what attaches to it, right? The mind says, okay, oh, I enjoyed it, I have to have it again. So mind goes, yeah. And then the intellect will agree with you again and say, oh, why not? And then it will also say, but maybe it's not so good for you, maybe it's not so good for you. But then if you have no training, you'll just do it, and then you'll feel unhappy afterwards. Because the desire is so strong that your wisdom is hidden. You're hidden. You cannot see that you are wise. Therefore, Arjuna, first take control of your desire, the sinful destroyer of wisdom and self-realization. So the only person that stops you from knowing yourself or understanding yourself is you. It is your desire. Okay? 42. The senses are stronger than the body. Okay? Your senses are much stronger than your physical body. That's why when you experience something external that is hurtful and has caused you a bit of pain from the outside world to you, your body will get sick, right? It will get sick, and that's why they say stress makes you sick. So here it's really just reiterating that. The mind is stronger than the senses, and your mind is even stronger than the senses. The discriminating intellect, buddhi, that's what it's called in Sanskrit, is stronger than the mind. And Atman is above the intellect. So here he's just telling you that the senses, and then the mind, and then the senses, and then your body, then your mind, then your intellect, and the highest of all that's within you is your Atman, your higher self. Here really, if you look at this sloka, he's talking about the koshas. Okay? For those yoga students who know it, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha. Okay, he's talking about the koshas here. So, because we're made in 5 kind of layers. I'm not going to go into the koshas. And again, if you want to know more about the koshas, I do believe I have a talk on YouTube all about the koshas. So there's no point me going deeply into it here. 43, the last sloka. Now that you know that Atman is beyond even your discriminating intellect, you can control the lower self with the Atman, the higher self. And although it is difficult, utterly destroy your deadly enemy, personal desire. So he's saying, no, now that you know that the divine is in you, the higher self is in you. And Jung speaks on it. He says, when you get in touch, the great psychologist, with your superconsciousness, you can heal. All the great saints and sages said, the light of wisdom is within you. Look at that light of wisdom, the light of the divine, the light of God. A spark is in each one of us. Look there. When you find that, and Alcoholic Anonymous AA also, know that there's a higher power, and being in touch with the higher power can help you heal you from your addictions. So the higher power is within you. And knowing that is in you, and yes, it is difficult. It is very difficult because the desiring mind is like, our desires are our addictions. If I don't meet the perfect person, I won't be happy in my life. If I don't have this food, if I don't have this alcohol, this drug, there's so many addictions, emotional addictions. If I don't have X amount of parties in my life, friends, either just like a lot, if I'm not successful in this or successful in that, there's all of that, and that makes us so unhappy. But if you learn that the divine is in you, and that's the highest of the highest, and is right here, right now, in this place, in this body, in this situation, and you know that. So when the goodness, when the qualities of nature and your mind goes into a crazy place of, I'm not happy, and you stop crying and you stop sobbing, know that you are purging the desire. You don't want to let that desire go. But it's part of the process, and Sri Patanjali talks about this part of the process as tapas, accepting pain for purification. When you want something so bad and you can't have it, and when you accept the pain, it leads you and makes you even purer inside, because you lose it. After you go through such severe pain, you start to lose attachment for things of the world. You know nothing is permanent. But you don't become bitter on this path, because you start to see something else, that everybody else is divine too. They just don't know it. And when you realize this, then the only joy is to be selfless and share it with everybody else, because there's nothing else to do in this world that is important. There's nothing to learn. There's nowhere to go to. Peace, you realize that you cannot find peace everywhere, anywhere else, but except within you, when your mind is quiet. And yes, there are times even when when the mind goes crazy, the Atman can watch it and you can know it. And then you go, okay, I'm going to have a tantrum for 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'm not going to do this to myself anymore, because that's my enemy. You don't want to hurt yourself anymore, because you realize you are divine. And for God's sake, you have no right to hurt yourself. You have zero right to put yourself down. You have zero right. You have everything you need as a human being. And people tell me I'm not good enough. I say, you're good enough. And I have other people who think they're so good and they have to come down 2 pegs or 3 pegs and start to be a bit humble. And I'd like to read to finish up today. We won't go into chapter 4 because we just terminated chapter 3, and we'll start chapter 4 next week. But I'd like to read something to you that's really important about work, and do the work that comes comfortable to you from Khalil Gibran, who's a great Persian poet. And I just love this. And he speaks about work. I also want to tell you that 90%, maybe 95% of the people I meet in life hankering to be somebody else. That great singer, that great artist, that great florist, that great computer designer. The hankering. And sometimes they just don't have enough of that to be that great. Rather than spending your entire life in fear and worry and trying to get something that you're not good at, why not spend your time just learning about you and your good qualities and being good at that? Because that's all you need. Because when people are so comfortable in their own bodies and their own mind, it's that comfort that attracts people to them. It's that, oh, I can relax with you. It's a language beyond the body. It's a language beyond the words. And the soul recognizes. We as spiritual people intuit this. But when we become very superficial, we don't want to hear those voices that tell us the truth, you know? So watch yourself, know yourself well. Remember, everybody's given a divine job. Don't hanker to be somebody else. Then a plowman said, "Speak to us of work." And he answered, saying, "You work that you may keep pace with the earth and the soul of the earth. For to be idle is to become a stranger unto the seasons, and to step out of life's procession that marches in majesty and proud submission towards the infinite, divine, Atman. When you work, you are a flute, through whose heart the whispering of the hours turn to music." I never forget, my master used to say again and again, "Lord, I'm your flute, play me, allow me to play your music." Saint Francis, I'm an instrument of your peace, right? Well, I am not the doer. I just am an instrument. So if I allow you to work through me, rather than say, I want it to work this way, or you have to make it work this way before I know that, or I'm going to do, I'm going to sacrifice for 20 days and not eat this so that you give me what I want. You're buying. You're doing business with the gods. Okay? This is beyond doing business with the gods. This is being in flow with the divine will. Which of you would be a reed, dumb and silent, when all else sings together in unison? Always you have been told that work is a curse and labor a misfortune. But I say to you, when you work, you fulfill a part of earth's furthest dream, assigned to you when the dream was born. So each one is assigned whatever work they're supposed to do. And in keeping yourself with labor, you are in truth loving life. And to love life through labor is to be intimate with life's innermost secret. But if you, in your pain, call birth an affliction, and the support of the flesh a curse written upon your brow, then I answer that not but the sweat of your brow shall wash away that which is written. So in other words, if you complain all the time, it will be on your face. So whatever is meant to come to you will not come to you. It will be washed away. What is written, what is meant for you to get, you won't be able to see it. It is written that you're born to get these things. You have been told also that life is darkness, and in your weariness you echo what was said by the weary. Right? People say, oh, it's horrible, everything is horrible. It's not. I'm sitting with wonderful people. It's not true. It's not true. I think I'd rather be here than World War II when there were bombs all over the place. It's better. It's not worse. Yes, the world's a bit weird, but it's strange weird, right? But at the moment where I'm living, it's beautiful. And I say that life is indeed darkness, save when there is an urge, and all urge is blind, save when there is knowledge, and all knowledge is in vain, save when there is work, and all work is empty, save when there is love. And when you work with love, you bind yourself to yourself and to one another and to God. And what is it to work with love? It is to weave the cloth with threads drawn from your very own heart, even as if your beloved were to wear that cloth. So every work and job, thought, deed should be done with that love, as if you are doing it for the most loved one, because God is in everyone. So the work should be done even better when you do it in love. And that's the work of the enlightened. You do it when you do it in love. You should be. It doesn't matter that what you get back in return, because you are doing it. You're recognizing every individual as namaste, as divine. The divine in me recognizes the divine in you. It is to build a house with affection, even as your beloved were to dwell in that house. It is to sow seeds with tenderness and reap the harvest with joy, even as if your beloved were to eat the fruit. It is to charge all things with fashion, with the breath of your own spirit, and to know that all the blessed dead are standing about you and watching. And I'd like to finish with that. It's a bit more, but I could go on for ages. But I would love to finish with this one, and to know that all the blessed dead are standing about you and watching. And I will tell you this story. More than half a dozen times, maybe more, maybe 8 times in my life, I have been told by those wise ones that can see beyond what the eyes can see, some psychics, and by my master himself, that when we do this kind of work, the room is not empty. It is full of souls that have left the earth and maybe have not moved on. And then it is also full of souls that have left the earth of higher nature, higher understanding, and come to support us. And then, as my master told me, he said many times, you will not be doing the talking, because people will tell you they see you with a beard. And I made a joke to him and I said, I don't want to be a man. And he laughed so much. And 3 people have told me that in my life, after I'd given a talk. So we are channels, and all of us are, every single one of us, when we work in this manner, we enfold the atoms, the particles, with love when we work together like this. Nothing to do with us. It's just that our minds are focused. We're not thinking of all the rubbish and nonsense. We are so focused on the highest energy that the particles and atoms change. And this is scientific proof. I'm talking about science now. This does happen. So whether we like it or not, the whole energy field will receive this protection. And I've been told this by quite a few incredible souls, and I felt deeply, deeply humbled when they told me. I don't often like to speak about it, but since we're doing the Gita, I just want you to know, if somebody like me, who's I think a bit nuts at times and very human, can feel this joy, everybody can. And I have a noisy mind that I've had to accept and work with. And to tell you that it is possible, that it is the best work you can do in your life, and to tell you all never to give up on yourself. Never. I have seen people take 20 years, 25 years, and one day they just keep working and they come crying year after year, I can't do it, Nalanie, I can't do it. Yes, you can. I just know you can. You just have to keep at your, just trust yourself. And I think this is the message of all sages and saints, and they keep telling us. And my master said, you know, at one of his nearly, I think his second to last satsang, what is the point of garlanding me and telling me how great I am, when really you should be learn to garland the divine in you? You should be living these truths. And Lord Jesus said, they will know you as my brother or sister by the works that you do. So we're family, do you see? And this is the ultimate teaching of spirit. So finally, in my analysis of what yoga really is, it's nothing that we can really learn, but knowledge, like he said, the Prophet, does help us to organize ourselves a little bit better, reminds us of who we are. But really, the ultimate work, if you can just sit with yourself in nature and be kind and recognize when your ego takes over, when your desires take over, when you're in a terrible place, and recognize there's nobody to point fingers at, because that is the most tempting thing to do in the world. And just say, they're my great gurus to teach me to detach. And the work is always within us. If you can just do that, you can get past anything, because then you get straight to the divine. And you know that by your peace. When you start laughing more, when you become happier, people insult you and you go, it's okay. They're right. They think I'm crazy. They think I'm a crazy yogi. That's okay. No problem. It's okay. But I'm who I am.